How's it going, guys? Kevin back at you with another video. Today's video we are going to be doing something a little bit different. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into the brainstorming and concept phase for designing a new product or part or tool, whatever that may be. So I was playing pickleball last night with a bunch of my friends over at PickFit, and we realized that they have no queuing system for the next paddles. There's a lot of different other places that have different racks, setups, things of that nature. So I thought, hey, I can be the one to design the setup for PickFit. So today we're going to be walking through sort of the brainstorming concept phase, figuring out what the requirements for the project are going to be. And then in the next video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the prototypes, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then potentially the finished product. So with that, let's get into it. All right, so jumping it in here, I wanted to give you guys a little bit more background on sort of the different phases of product development, give you guys a little bit of an idea of how I approach a more serious project, one that I'm a little bit more concerned with, and I want to make sure that I don't miss anything as I'm going through it. So this can be applicable to job, home project, whatever it may be, but for this instance here, I'm going to walk you through a simple little document. This one's pretty straightforward, but I just want to go through what this sort of means to the design process to make sure that you're not missing anything early on. And so that way you can have a successful product when you come out the door and you're done with your product. So this is actually a template that's in Google Drive, just with their Word doc templates. I've tweaked it slightly, but essentially, as I sort of mentioned, my local gym slash pickleball courts needs a solution for basically picking up paddles that are currently off the floor. That's currently the method for sort of storing slash queuing pickleball paddles for the courts at PickFit. When it's not busy, this isn't really an issue, but when it is busy, there's really nowhere to put paddles. So that's currently sort of the purpose, and then our problem statement here. If the courts are full, there's no method for queuing paddles, knowing who's up next, and there's no real storing method right now. So our target audience is the users wanting to use the pickleball court. So this can be anyone from a beginner who's never been there before to someone who's there regularly. So we want to make sure it's very easy to pick up on and understand, and there's not really any confusion of how to use this. And the goals here, most of these are all must-haves just because this is what we want here. So it's got to be easy to use and understand, as I mentioned. It's got to be durable for daily repeated use. This is going to be used every day. It must be mounted to the vertical poles in the center of the facility. So part of this, part of this problem above is we need an off-the-floor method. So the facility is getting more equipment in, so we need to make sure that there's nothing on the floor. So there's these vertical poles that are in the center of the structure, and that's what we want to mount these to. And that way it keeps them off of the floor, out of the way, and it's a good solid object to mount to. They must be able to hold at minimum 4 paddles per court. So there's 3 courts on either side of the facility. So we want to be able to have 4 on one side, 4 on the other at minimum. Ideally up to 8, so that way you can have the next court ready to go and then any additional in a second rack. Possibly more. The nice thing with a pole is you can work vertically, so you can go up or down. However, we do need to keep in mind that it must be accessible for a variety of heights of people. So if we have shorter people, taller people, we want to make sure that it's easy for everyone to access and that nobody has any trouble with it. And then one thing that I threw in here that I want it to be a one-handed operation to add or remove a paddle. I don't want you have to hold something with your other hand, push it out of the way, whatever. I want somebody to just take 2 hands, grab 2 paddles, one hand, grab 1 paddle, load and unload, make it very, very easy. Some of the things that aren't necessarily goals, but things we want to keep in mind. We kind of want it to be aesthetically pleasing, ideally, easy to manufacture, and install, of course. And then I added this here for ins and outs, just as another thing that we want to kind of think of while we're going through the concept and brainstorming here is pickleball paddles are what's going in, and this is typically singles, and then what's going out is groups of 2 or 4 pickleball paddles, basically your groups. Typically it's going to be 4, but in less people instances it's going to be just 2. So that's another thing to keep in mind of, hey, maybe we can make it easy to add 1, but then make it a little bit easier to take out 2 or 4 at a time, because that's what we're really going to be intending to do. Metrics, there's not really any metrics for this specific product, other than it achieves the goals and the customers are satisfied with the end product. Obviously, we do have some metrics in that it must be able to hold 4 paddles per court. We could add different metrics in where you might be able to load and unload a paddle within 3 or 4 seconds, things of that nature where we have specific numeric time, things of that nature. But for this product, since it's pretty casual, I'm not too worried about any metrics. Depending on what you're working on, there may be more things. Just going to jump over here to the requirements tab. So one thing to note here, there's P0, P1, and P2 requirements. This is basically must-haves, should-haves, and nice-to-haves. I haven't added too many other should-haves and nice-to-haves at the moment because I'm mostly just worried about the must-haves, getting a concept out there, seeing what we have, and then I'm going to talk with the folks over at PickPit and see if there's any should-haves or nice-to-haves or any other must-haves that I missed in my conversation with them. And this is really clear to get early on in the project to make sure that there's no confusion about what it is that the customer wants. So with that, I'm going to jump over here to Fusion. And basically the purpose of this sort of brainstorming concept is to just throw a couple ideas out there and see what sticks, what we like, what we don't like, not necessarily to put a whole lot of effort into the CAD and the design. So for here, one of the things that I thought I liked the idea of was, hey, what about a circular mount? So this is just our theoretical post here. It's about 8-9 inches. I have to get the exact dimensions, but that's okay. We don't need that for the conceptual phase here. But I thought, hey, let's just figure out maybe a ring, something. We'll put some holes through it. You can just drop the paddles in. The nice thing about this is we can duplicate this, put another layer down here, and now we've got our set of 8 for each quartz, 4 on either side. So that's fairly straightforward, pretty simple. Something we could do. Another concept that I kind of liked is, well, what if we sort of stuck these out off the sides and sort of went vertically down? This could also just wrap around and be basically an angled iteration of the circular method. So I like the idea of playing off the design language in the space already. Since these are round poles, it'd be fun to have something that is circular, but also that still gets the point across about who's up, who's not up, things of that nature. So another thing here, so these pickleball paddles, they look like pickleball paddles. It's kind of obvious. However, they're pretty janky, and that's because I just whipped these up in about 2 or 3 minutes. And that's, again, the point of the concept and the brainstorm here is don't spend a ton of effort making it look pretty. Just get the general size, the feel across, so that way if you're going to go communicate this with a customer or coworkers, whatever it may be, you want to just make sure that you're getting the point across and they can visualize and see what this design may be. So I kind of just made a simple shoot here. So hey, we could drop this in, maybe wrap these around, or maybe make 2 sets and run it down vertically, just to get lots of different ideas out there. So at this point now, it's a really good point to check in with your team, see what specifics they like with the concepts, what things they don't like, if there's any other requirements that they think they missed with the initial meeting. And then from there, it's, hey, let's pick one of these concepts that we're going to go develop further. Let's get a prototype out there and actually get it in people's hands and get it testing and see how it likes. So from here, like I said, I'm going to go do that. And then the next time, in the next video, I will hopefully be showing you guys the initial prototype that we've decided on and that we're testing out. So that way you can see what that looks like, and then ideally the finished product from there. So I was happy to show you guys through this little brainstorming and conceptual phase. Feel free to ask any other questions, any other things that you might be thinking at this phase in the design project. But it's really, really important to get those requirements set from the start, so that way you know what you're making and what things it must do and not do. Because if you miss those at the start, your customer, client, whatever it may be, is not going to be happy at the end. But again, during the conceptual phase, I shouldn't be putting in hours and hours of CAD work. I should just be mocking things up, even hand sketching things on pieces of paper, just to kind of show people, hey, here's a bunch of ideas. And this is when you want to have people just let their minds run wild and think of whatever other kinds of things they want to think. So with that, thank you guys for checking out this video. I will catch you guys in part 2, where we look at some prototypes and potentially the final product. So thanks for watching.